Hello and welcome. I think we're probably good to go. If you're just one last shout out that you are in society, the power of sport, arts and technology. Excellent. I'm going to make a start. Hello everyone. I will be jumping around in front of the panel. My name's Zenna, and I'm here and I currently run a charity called RugbyWorks, and we work with young people who've been permanently excluded from school, from Newcastle to Neath, Manchester to Merthyr, let me get out of Wales, from Liverpool to Luton, down to London, and we use rugby really as a hook to get young people engaged, but predominantly we're an employment charity that works with young people to give them the skills to get into employment. And obviously we work with a huge number of care experienced young people because there is a direct correlation between being in care and getting permanently excluded out of school. Unfortunately, it's my absolute honour and pleasure to be here to facilitate this panel and to keep people talking about the focus of our meeting today. What I'm going to do is actually ask all of our panellists initially just to introduce yourselves. You'll have to pass the microphone along, introduce yourselves, and please give a little bit of context about your experience of either having been in care yourself, as I was, or having worked with young people in care, or something that relates your particular organisation to the topic here today in terms of the Children's Summit. So I'm going to start down this end and take it away, and we'll go all the way down this end. No, you are in sport, arts and technology. I mean, I think it's a great one. I don't think you should leave us. It's probably better than early intervention. We're definitely better. Sorry, take us away.
Thank you very much. Is it working? Yep. I'm probably a crushing disappointment to you because I'm billed as Jimmy White. Well, I don't know who you expected, but I'm Jim White from Active Essex Foundation. We do sport, youth crime prevention project with my colleague Suzanne, who's filming me now. We do that in Essex. We work with lots of organisations, about 80 organisations that do sport and activity, but we obviously capacity build them, train them, and bring them up to speed, if you like, do due diligence to make sure that they're good, they're great quality. And they do tutoring, mentoring, coaching, trauma-informed. We train them on that sort of aspect. So we work a lot with those children that are vulnerable to exploitation and criminality. And a lot of children in care, as you know, are vulnerable to that aspect. So that's what we do.
Hi, my name's Imogen Walsh. I work for a charity rowing club called Fulham Reach Boat Club, but I run a project called Boats Not Bars, which on the surface is a rowing project in prisons, but really it's about getting people involved through sport, using that as a hook to bring people into a community where we try and support people when they're released. As Charlie Taylor said earlier on, there's sadly a really high crossover between care leavers and those in prison. So that's sort of where my work sort of intersects with the care kind of world. And it's trying to provide them with the sort of support and self-belief really to kind of be ambitious and like the network to help them do that. As well as that, more recently, in partnership with Daniele, who's in the room here, we've just started a project specifically for care leavers who have not been through the prison system, but again, using the process of a sports program to build community and self-belief and trust with service providers.
Hello everyone, my name's Beth Vecchioni and I run a social enterprise called Care to Dance and we support care experienced young people through dance. So I'm a social worker myself and our mission is to be able to create safe spaces across the country for young people to feel a sense of belonging, to creatively express themselves, to build their self-esteem and confidence, and to have people who are trusted adults and peers around them so that they can believe in them so that they can believe in themselves. And we combine social work and dance. So we work in collaboration with virtual schools, local authorities, charities across the country to make sure that we can create inclusive communities so every young person can come and access what we offer. And we always say the onus is on ourselves to adapt our approach, so to make sure that no one is marginalised, and amongst a group of staff who understand their needs and who can practice in a trauma-informed way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'm Claire Talbot, and until very recently when I retired, I was working for Essex Police. And as you know, one of the key elements that when police come into contact with young people in care is at a time of crisis, either if they're missing or if they're in the judicial system, unfortunately, or if we have to use our powers as police officers to actually remove them from a setting, which is really, really challenging. But one of my areas that I had responsibility for was community engagement, and so the reason that I'm here and Kelly is here also as well from Essex Police is we set up a youth football tournament which is a community event for anyone and everyone to get involved. We work closely with Jim and Active Essex and various different Premier League kicks, isn't it? And various different people who sort of bring together anybody who wouldn't normally have the opportunity. And that's where the power of sport comes into it, because it provides literally a level playing field for people to come along and engage with police officers in that relaxed environment and realise that actually you are just people and trying to build those relationships at that early stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm also a bit of a disappointment because I'm not on the agenda. My colleague is. So my name's Sheila Woodward, and I am a service manager in children's social care in Essex. I have the responsibility for children and young people who go missing from home and care. For those children and young people where there is a risk or a threat to them in the community, often known as contextual safeguarding, but we call it risk in the community in Essex. And also I have the Children in Care Council, which is a terrible name, but in statute it's the place where children and young people can influence decisions that are made about themselves but about the services also. We use sport in all of those arenas. We work closely with Jim and his team and with the police, as you can imagine, but also for our Children in Care Council. So we say in Essex every child in care and leaving care belongs to the Children in Care Council. We don't have a set group of young people that do something. And we focus primarily on their personal, social, emotional and relational development. So we use our outdoor centres a lot, and we use the sports providers that Jim and his service have been exploring to ensure that they're safe people to walk alongside our children and young people. So we work a lot with sport, and we have noticed how important the impact of that is in a whole range of different ways, not least to have that really important person walking alongside you that's trusted, but also to have that opportunity to exceed. Sometimes our children and young people don't stay in the school environment as long as their peers, or they will move around, so they may not be achieving within that traditional environment, but certainly within sport. We see them thrive. And we see young people who might go missing very regularly always turn up for football training, always turn up for the football match or the rugby match. We've seen young people who carry knives who have come to the attention of the police because they're being exploited and are on that cusp of becoming an exploiter. Build a relationship with a trusted individual who walked alongside them, got to know who they were, and actually the end result was they no longer carry knives and they're in employment. So it's enormous, the power of sport.
Thank you. I'm Dan Feast, Chief Executive of Essex Cricket. And again, working with the partners on here, we really see the power of sport in terms of bringing connectivity through the community, but also creating aspiration and opportunity to a number of people in terms of work opportunities and creations and working with those partners. I saw that volunteering with a group about 25 years ago that I still work with a group of care leavers and young people with disabilities who have now grown up and now, following leaving education, have now used their sport and their confidence through sport to open up career aspirations and jobs for them going through. I also saw it during work when I was in Croydon, during the riots. Around there, we used the power of sport within schools to calm the community, connect the community back up, and create those aspirations and those opportunities for communities to come together, as you say, just turn up to their sessions, have something that was regularly there for them that gave them the confidence to share their own stories and their own beliefs around their going. And now at Essex, we work closely, and you've seen there's a bit of a theme here with Fatima coming through, that around bringing those partnerships together. And it's not about the individual sports, it's about what that can do in terms of creating a community and an aspiration. We certainly now at Essex see the opportunities around creating work placements, and we're working with ECL now, and we've got 10 people that come regularly now to our ground, have a job, have a commitment, have something they own, have responsibility for, and it's nothing to do with playing the sport, but sport was that hook. And so again, for us, we have a real challenge within the game of cricket in terms of breaking down some of those perceptions, and we've been able to use that to really open up that opportunity that actually now they believe that they can achieve and can stretch themselves into higher aspirations going forward, and that's why we're here today. So good.
Brilliant. I'm not on the agenda either, so I'm just chucking myself in, but and I'm not from Essex. Sorry. So my name's Justin Coleman. I'm COO of the Alliance of Sport and Criminal Justice. It feels a bit sometimes maybe criminal justice heavy, this subject, but in a nutshell, I suppose, as an organisation, we're there to support other organisations through the power of sport. And also development. So it's not just about sport, but as Charlie Taylor was alluding to upstairs, there's been some assessments around 66% of the population in the youth justice estate, for example, are care experienced. That was just from a survey. I know it's more personally. I think it is anyway. And over my career, over the past 30 years or so now of working in and around that space, I've done nothing but work with care experienced people. However, I just want to mention something. My own personal experience as well, lived experience, I was in the care system. From that experience, I guess my application has always been to care. So in a nutshell, I'm in the system trying to help people in it, but in a caring way, if that makes sense, and just that connection. What sport allows, or allowed me, and it allows many others that we work with, all of us, I'm sure, it allows choice. It allows connection. I can find the person that I want to be rather than a case of someone telling me who I need to be. So I can take the choice. Personally, I liked boxing, like martial arts, but I also loved being in a skateboard park and just being free with my friends. They were around, I was around, we were just hanging out. But those skateboard parks, for example, the arts, which we're talking about as well today, I guess the arts, the technology that was there at the time, it was a boombox. It's a bit quieter now, we can wear headphones. But ultimately, it just meant that we could come together and be together. And I think that's something that the system, or I'm trying to take into the system now, is a place and space where people can find themselves through choice and meet great people like this in a nutshell, from their community in a space which isn't technically a community. But so as the Alliance of Sport, bottom line, we're there to try and help other organisations as much as we can. Pleasure. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Joe Lyons. I'm the Chief Exec of the Westham United Foundation. I suppose I'm going to start with a very, very quick story in that 25 years ago, and I know you're thinking, Jesus, he can't be that old. But, I was working at another football club. Again, I'm on club colours today, Westham United. I won't tell you where that was, but it was in North London. And the virtual head teacher from the borough and the lead social worker knocked on the door of the football club and said, we walk past this every day, like in our borough. Can we come in? And then I was buzzed saying, got two people, probably sits within your department. Can you take them around? And I just took them into the tunnel and then out into the pitch. And they were just like, every single one of our young people need to do that. This is like a hidden gem. And the words that they use and that I continue to use is this fairy dust. And I don't think it's about football necessarily. I think it's about sport, and you could even put it into drama or arts or whatever. But it's the fairy dust that hooks young people. And since that day, 25 years ago, just working with virtual schools, working with care leavers into employment and so on, I've just seen certain trends and traits that have gone through all of our programs. And I've moved from one football club to another, and now I'm at West Ham. And for me personally, it's based on relationships and trust. And if you don't have that as a core ingredient, then all of these amazing stories you're probably not going to achieve. I do think two of my colleagues were supposed to be here from other football clubs, one from Millwall, Sean, and John from Man United. And again, there's lots of other platforms that can work, but the football sector, in terms of its 92 football clubs, have all got there's 92 of me around the country. And one thing we need to do much better is collaborate. So if you're thinking, if you were, I don't know, Mark Riddell from upstairs, and we know Mark, but why does he have to go around 92 clubs talking? Why can't he go to one body that talks to in arguably one of the biggest charities if it all came together, and its army of youth workers, mentors, etc. So I'm not just here with the West Ham hat on, it's kind of the London clubs and then actually the regional network, and we've got a lot of work to do over the next decade to make that happen. But yeah, great to be here.
Thanks. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Ferdinand. I'm title is Director of Safeguarding and Inclusion at Westham Football Club. The move to a football club, I was a teacher of 20 plus years in a secondary school, as well as being head of safeguarding, head of inclusion, but I was also the designated lead for children looked after at the time that it was referred to. And I think I got close up to see, as you say, about the power of sport and the hook of sport and what it represented for the young people and working in that way. And one of the reasons why I applied for the role was the West Ham Foundation site, which talked about the work that it did with young people and children in care, but also the education. And I think as moving to the club, what we're able to do, we're able to take from the place of education to the world of sport, is what equitable measures, what opportunities, what sustainable opportunities can we grow for children and young people, but particularly being aware of those extra lengths and what we need to do to support children with care experience and care leavers in order to feel safe, but also to flourish. So one of the things that we are keen to use is the reach of the brand, and that looks like, for example, ring-fencing work placement opportunities, employment opportunities, mental health provisions that we do, hunger schools, our after schools club, that making sure that we're knocking on the doors of virtual schools and saying we are here, but also that we have staff who come from social workers background, teacher background, youth work, as well as our coaches, to make sure that when we are working with young people and care leavers that we're additionally equipped to do so, but also in terms of supporting them around resilience about those difficult times, that we're also equipped to do so. One of the last things that I think that we do was just giving a book, Fatima's book, to every primary and junior school in Newham, and it was a way of, again, trying to make sure that children feel that they are seen and it's part and it's standard when they walk into our library. So we're always looking at ways as a brand that we can contribute to the work that's already been done.
Thank you. I think you'll all agree. Let's have a round of applause for our fabulous panel. I think you'll all agree that we've got a wealth of experience here up on our panel, and what I'm going to come on and ask them shortly, and we'll probably just run back that way, is to give some real examples of how sports, arts, culture, technology have really made a difference to children in care's lives. So they've had a heads up that question's coming up. But before we do that, it's all stand up. Everybody stand up if you can. If you can't, don't worry. Stay standing up if sport has had a positive impact in your life. Sit down if sport has not had any type of positive impact in your life. So those of you that are standing, do you need to answer? I think only 3 of you sat down. We've got 3 of you sat down, haven't I? Sport, no, we're going to come back to you 3. You're definitely there. So all of you, I presume, have some understanding of the power of sport and how it can change your lives for the better, right? Yet we are continually asked in this sector, in the culture sector, in order to get any resources, we are asked every single day to continue to prove it. When can we get to a point where we just accept that sports, arts, culture, drama, technology do have a positive impact and we can stop proving it? You may all sit down now. For the 3 of you that sat, were any of you impacted by the arts? Yes. And by culture? You've really been over-dominated by sports here. I do apologise. I I was thrown out of school and we were suddenly given this opportunity to fence. Turned out I could just about fence, but you can probably see from the way I'm milking the moment on the mic that arts was much more my thing. So welcome the three of you to my world. What I want to do now is I'd like you all to think, but also as you listen to our panel, when we hear some real examples about how sports, and it does, just because you're sports, if you've got a cultural or a technology example, please feel free to give that. But what impact it's had to really change some lives. And I'm going to start with you this time. If you haven't got anything that you can think of, do pass on the mic, because we're always tight for time. But this is about what ways has sport, arts, culture, technology really impacted on the lives of looked after children?
Okay, there's many. A recent example is that we reached out to a local university, college, and we deliberately targeted young people in their degree who came from who were care leavers or children in care experience, because what we know is that often they have less of an opportunity to go to big commercial, large, very successful organisation. But we also know what it meant, and I think you spoke about the example, what it, in terms of the aspiration, believing that they have a place. And I taught sociology, so we all know that if you look for networking opportunities, there's certain social economic school stratas that have more opportunity than others at networking in terms of work experience. So we had two young people who worked in our arts and in our commercial department, because that's another thing about sport, that outside of just on the pitch or off the pitch experience, there is a world of accountancy, management, economics, safeguarding, etc., and then open up the world. And those two young people came in, flourished, and did incredibly well. And I think what it meant for them is that someone of this football club, this brand, was interested in them. And they came, I think they may have met Karen Brady at some point, or just being in that environment was it really inspirational. And they were able to take away an experience, because we often know that the profile, if they've already got the experience, sometimes it opens up doors at other places that they're competing with, particularly with students who may come from the Russell Group University. So for me, that is something which is sustainable, and I think that's really important. As a club, we move beyond the sort of what I call foods, fun and flag initiative, where you celebrate a day and then you move on. It's the challenge for us is about what can we do to create that ripple effect, and I think that was an example around work experience for me.
Thanks, Jackie. I'll probably follow on from that, really, in terms of whatever institutions you're from, do you see yourself as anchored, right? So if you've never been to East London, we're building a community hub, which will be ready in June. You're all welcome to come along and have a coffee and be a part of that. But it's about where we should be. So football clubs traditionally have come from where they were set up 100-odd years ago all around the country, and they're situated in places that need them now. So as an anchored institution, i.e. football, sport, whichever way you look at it, that's the easy part. What we need to do is continue to build trust with the young people and communities around us. The way you do that is by saying yes, and you have to say yes a lot. And sometimes you can't say yes because you haven't got the funding, and it goes to what you're saying in terms of funding is incredibly difficult for charities. Forget the brand of West Ham, we're an independent charity, and we try and source our funding. So for young people, especially from the care system or leaving care, you can't say, sorry, the funding's run out. You can't just, well, how are you gonna be able to say that to them? So it's about saying, when you commit to them, when you commit to somebody, a young person, it has to be long term, and it has to be kind of it can never be broken in terms of whatever you're promising. And my example, and I think you'd all probably share examples like this, is that again, it can't be on a Thursday afternoon at 2:00. okay, I can see you on Thursday afternoon for a session, or we can help you there. And I don't think there's a model there out there. You can go slightly to the left and outside a safeguarding framework, but that's what I think is needed. So on a Sunday afternoon, if someone phones you, a young person you're mentoring, you pick up the phone like you would do to your niece, nephew, and you say, how can I help you? What's going on? Do you want to bounce? And they're the examples that I've seen over the years where the young people that then thrive and flourish, they feel trusted, they feel safe, they feel like they can bounce, and it's the opportunities that you're then going to be able to give them and then network in. But for me, it's about saying yes a hell of a lot more.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to take you back a little bit to the 80s, I guess, to start with. It'll cover all three. Well, not the IT bit at the moment. I'll come on to that in a minute, the tech. But so the hip-hop culture for me was something that enabled me to express myself in many, many ways. So what I mean by that was, so in the skateboard park I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you've ever been to Bristol, but in Bedminster, there's a skateboard park there which is incredibly, in my eyes, beautiful. To some, it's really not. But the graffiti's something I love and I'm passionate about. But around that space, just so you know, I'm sure you all know Banksy, for example, Massive Attack, that sort of thing. They were in that space, and I was knocking around with people like that. Just so you're aware now, I guess I'm talking the 80s. I'm really blessed and fortunate to be the CEO of a charity, self-appointed, admittedly. We did set the charity up ourselves. But ultimately, I'm surrounded still by those same people, and I can reach out to them. They're CEOs of IT firms, they're CEOs of other charities, and we still have that close-knit connection. And for me, it was the choice, and I go back to that part now around the fact that I could express myself through art and learn something and talk to people and connect with them. I could have some physical activity that was by choice, so I could break my nose on a vert if I needed to, which I didn't really like doing, but it was something I did do a couple of times. But we could also share that pain and kind of success at the same time. And I think this goes back to that care experience part now, where I think I needed that family, I needed that belonging to be able to identify, and I think it goes back to your point around the networks. It's incredible that often we find that there's not a niche or a pathway, but within sport there is a niche and a pathway to connect with others and stay connected for I'm 46 now, so I've been connected with them since, 40 years or so. So I guess it's that upbringing that you have. They are my family is in a nutshell. So from hip-hop culture of old, if you want, and I mean that in a sense, I'm not sure about the modern music. I'm not quite up for some of the stuff that I'm seeing, but I see the expression still coming through, and I see that connection to it. And I also see the connection with physical activity and sport. So I think, the IT side of it now, I think there is a lot more that can be done. So when I say that, the tech world, there's a lot more opportunities, a lot more jobs coming up, and we need to prepare children, not just prepare the young adults, if you want, the young people, but the children for what's coming, especially in the care experience space, and give them the tools they'll need to sort of navigate the new world as it is. AI is coming, it's here, in fact, and it's very useful, but it's what can we ensure that those children get access to help them with their future. But I'll stop there.
Brilliant. I'm just reflecting there, just listening to the groups and on the question, and I look at what's been the common theme through, and I think where sport, music, the arts all play, that within those areas, you've got brilliant coaches and brilliant team networks. And the one thing that sport and the community and aspirations through arts and everything is bring people together. And you can hear from the group here, and it's quite interesting, we're sitting here, but we all work together already because sport and music and the arts brings those groups together. And then the individuals within that, and we've all got examples from our own bit, all have their own different styles, which means they can connect with a wide range of groups, are able to coach those individuals to achieve something they didn't think was possible, and going through that part. And I think that's what the power is of what we've got as a resource and a unit, whether it's a music teacher, a dance teacher, a coach on a football field or a cricket field or a basketball court, is able to guide those individuals to come to have that belief and that aspiration they can actually become something. And there's so many stories of that. And one group I've got here, Al, who works for me over here, she started with us. She's now a level 3 cricket coach. She's now playing in our performance teams. She's had that aspiration and belief because people supported her and guided her through different connections around it. And we've got a group down near with West Ham, which is a homeschooling group based at a club that actually was Ravi Bopara's club, who was an ex-England cricketer who came through Essex, who supported us. And you see the beliefs now in those individuals who have now gone on to take coaching courses, who are now going out to get work because they believe and they've been supported and coached to be able to achieve that ambition. And there's plenty of stories of that. But I think that's the real power we have. It's not what sport's being played or what musical instruments being played or what dance is being done. It's actually the individuals that we've got as a skill set that can collectively bring partnerships and groups together. And that's what Fatima's done brilliantly today about bringing all these people together. But then the individual resources we have who can then guide and connect with those individuals and those young people, making them believe that they can actually achieve what they want to in the future. And there's so many examples around the table and within the groups here that come out from that point.
I'm going to talk to you about a festival that we have in Essex called It's My Life Festival. It happens every year. It's a week-long festival. It's been going for 25 years, beyond my time, actually. But it's been going for 25 years. It's amazing, and it brings together sports, arts, drama, culture, and change. And so the It's My Life Festival is for children and young people who are care experienced. And some of those days are also for children and young people who have a social worker and their families. It focuses on outdoor activities. So we have it within our Essex Outdoor Centre in Danbury. Young people have been coming for years. In fact, we've got a young person here today with us who has been coming to it for years. Then she became a mentor, and now she works for our virtual schools. So a big shout out to virtual school and Charlotte. But at this It's My Life Festival, we have a sense of belonging. So children and young people, if you ask a child who is in the care system, how many children do you think are in care in Essex? So I asked a young person a little while ago, and they said, that's a toughie. 10. And when I told him how many children were in care in Essex, he was shocked. He was quite new to care. He was shocked. He came along to It's My Life, and he was absolutely enthralled that he belonged. He found the tribe somebody spoke about earlier. And he did activities that he'd never done before, that he was actually quite frightened of, you know, high ropes and aerial runway and caving. But alongside all of that, we have arts, we have choir areas, we have drama, so you can choose. You know, I might not be very good at the high ropes. I might only have got halfway up, but wow, what an achievement, never done that before. But I might be really, really good at that drama or the art stuff. It's constantly buzzing. So last year we had 1,000 children and young people and some of their parents come along. I heard a mum say, here I can be a good mum. Here I don't have to worry about not being able to pay. My child can run around and nobody is judging him. Our children and young people make friends that they then keep forever. So it's bigger, as you say, than the sport that they're playing or the art or the drama or the culture. One of the things in the last few years that has really taken over is our children and young people who are separated migrants. So we spent a long time trying to understand how best to support those young people at It's My Life. And we'd put on the same things that we put on for everybody else, and they just didn't want to do it. They sat round under trees chatting. They found people that could speak their own. They're an amazing bunch of people. So out of a group of 5 young people who all speak different languages, they'll take, so I can speak a bit of your language, you can speak a bit of his language, and they're amazing. And then it became really apparent that there were only a few things they wanted to do. So they wanted to sit around and socialise. They wanted to eat out in the outdoor centre, the countryside. But they wanted to dance. So after an hour of being there, somebody will always have put on their music, and there'd be groups of young people doing their traditional dance. We didn't arrange that. They arranged that themselves. And then they have dance-offs that they arrange themselves. And over the years, we've worked out how to make sure the right food is there, how to make sure the right support networks are there for these groups of young people. But actually, it's evolved throughout the whole of It's My Life. So It's My Life is that place where those young people are coming together, finding their sense of belonging, and we use those activities as a means to encourage them to come together. The other thing that happens at It's My Life is it's the opportunity for us to hear from all of those young people, what does it feel like to be in care at Essex? And we don't just hear the good things. When we first did it years ago, people were like, oh, you can't ask them if they like the social worker. God, they're all going to say no. And actually didn't. And I always remember this statistic. It was 95% of children and young people said they liked their social worker. That's amazing, isn't it? That's absolutely amazing. What they then said was, my social worker doesn't always do what they say they're going to do. And my social worker can be quite difficult to contact. Brilliant. Because what that meant was we could do something about that. So your voice message, if you're not available, will direct a young person to our duty teams. So somebody's available, even if I'm not. And not doing what you say you're going to do. Let's find out from the workforce why that might be. And then let's build a plan, which we did. And so each year we have a plan based on the feedback of young people to improve our services. So not only have we got sports, culture, drama, we've got change. And we've wrapped it all up in everybody belonging and achieving. So that's one thing we're really, really proud of in Essex.
It sounds amazing, and actually interesting when you hear what I'm about to say. It sort of like links to what you've just said, really. So one of the things that I was going to talk about was at one of the earlier football tournaments. We've done it every year for the last few years. Great organisation, Changing Lives, who people may have heard of. They had a football team that they brought who had never played together before. They didn't even know each other, and it was a team made up of young people in care who were migrants, asylum seekers or refugees. They were people who were from Eritrea, Chad, Iran, Afghanistan. None of them spoke the same language as each other. They couldn't communicate to each other. And it's quite exciting to see the journey from when they first arrive in the morning and they're all just silent, doing their own thing, this, that and the other. By the end of the day, they have not only played together as a team, they've come together as a team, they're communicating some way as a team. And quite excitedly, they actually won, which, bearing in mind, there was a lot of established teams there. It didn't go down well with some of the established teams. But that is just the power of bringing people together. They don't even have to have the same language, but the sport is that common language. And so that was just a sort of an insight that I wanted to sort of raise.
So I think I'm going to speak about one young person in a second, but I think in general the arts, as we know, and sports and technology, it can all have such a massive impact on a young person. And I think as a social worker myself, too often we hear that young people, what's going wrong for them and what's not happening at school and what they're struggling with. But actually, we don't hear enough about what's going right for them. What are they smashing at? Like, what are they doing amazing at? And so often that the arts, the sports, the technology, that's where that's happening, and they need to be celebrated for that. And it means that they can find a sense of purpose, of belonging, a sense of achievement. It might mean that they find themselves in that career and they pursue it through potentially sports leadership qualifications, dance leadership qualifications, work experience opportunities internally. It means that they're surrounded by people who really love, care and believe in themselves. We talk about trauma-informed approach, and I think that's so important. But also a human approach, loving our young people, caring about our young people, hearing from them what do they want to achieve and believing in them. Because what we see when they join Care to Dance for over the years, as they see their trusted adults, that they believe in them, they can start to believe in themselves. And this links me onto one young person, because she's an absolute inspirational young person. She's incredible. She's going to be performing tonight, by the way, so please cheer her on. And she joined Care to Dance a few years ago. She really struggled with her confidence, her sort of self-belief, and she's such an incredible young person, and she's such an incredible dancer. And she's a very kind young person too. She became one of our ambassadors, and she built real strong relationships with our dance teachers, our social workers in the space. The team and the young people went and saw her at her dance. She does dance externally as well, so at her dance performance, brought her flowers, were there for her to cheer her on, and that meant a lot for her. And then she joined is now in university studying dance and is doing amazing, and she's started being a dance teacher for ourselves as well. And I think seeing the journey of young people and how they can thrive in such a safe space that also channels their creativity, channels their interests, and has people around them who they can trust, I think has such a powerful impact. And it's something hard to quantify and measure. It's something that you see and hear every day whilst you're with young people. So a big shout out to her and all of our other young people, because they're all incredible. They're all achieving such wonderful things. And it's a privilege to be alongside them in their journey.
So as we kind of mentioned earlier about we continually need to prove the power of sport. Wish we didn't have to, but we do. So when I run these programs in prisons, I run surveys with the participants, and some of the areas that we kind of cover is a sense that other people believe in you, and the feeling that I have a community of people that support me. And it continually shocks and saddens me how low the scores are to those questions, that people just feel that they have nobody that believes in them, nobody supports them. And I think about, if I was to go to prison, I am 100% sure that my family would still be there to support me positively when I was released, and that the people, the bonds that I have created with people through sport, for me, 20 years of rowing, those bonds are equally as strong, and they would be there to support me. It's so sad that people don't have that. On a more positive note, that as the programs go on and we sort of resurvey, we see gradual increases in the responses to those questions. So what you may not have in familial bonds, you start to develop in that community, that sports community bond. And that's something for me that we try and find these sort of quantifiable measures, which is really difficult, but that's something that that we do see. And then how that manifests in real world examples is that when people are released from prison, they come back to us. So they'll come back to us and ask for help with all manner of things, which I can't do all those things, but we build up a sort of a menu of options for people. And it's through that relationship that you build through sport that they then come back and say, I need help with accommodation, X, Y, and Z, and we can facilitate that and keep that relationship going.
Yeah, so proving that sport works is the difficult bit, and the early intervention bit is very, very difficult to prove. So I was in the police for 30 years, like Claire. I was in fact, the same police force. And I did gangs and county lines and knife crime and missing young people. I saw all of that. I saw the victims. I dealt with all of the crimes, and also worked with the violence and vulnerability unit. So, fully aware of all the dangers of exploitation and criminality. So it was a nice fit when I came out to the Sport and Youth Crime Prevention Project, although I had to sort of be convinced, I think, that sport would do all of those things that it claimed it could do. Because, I wasn't thoroughly into sport, etc., but I was, definitely interested in that early intervention piece. And it really had, with the Youth Crime Prevention Project, and I know that when we worked with Sheila's team, she pointed out these young people in care, that you must be careful about labelling them as criminals. We're not doing that, but working with children in care, they definitely are more vulnerable to exploitation and criminality. So we had to, as a charity, as Justin said, charities, they work hard to try and get their funding. So we got a funding bid, and we got an enabler, which was an individual that worked with Sheila's team, with the Children in Care Council, and we worked with some young people. So you're asking about examples. 86% reduction in missing episodes for that team. I know that it was a very small sample size, but we had to check those statistics several times because we had to make sure it was correct. But that if you imagine the savings that's made, if you imagine that the danger that's reduced in terms of those young people, it was quite remarkable. So that for us was a major implication of sport and activity. And sport is that engagement tool. It's that hook that you get young people into something that they're really interested in. You can work with them for a long period of time. As with the arts and other aspects, it really is powerful.
Thank you. What I'd like you to do now, we've only got a couple of minutes left. You've only got 2 minutes to do this. It's just on the tables that you're sat. You'll have to join a table because you're sat alone and you'll talk to yourself. But on the tables that you're sat, literally just have a 2-minute chat about what it is that you think you can do to help young people and to help kids in care engage with sports, arts, culture. Just say hello, just talk about the power of that sport. Just 2 minutes, so you spend a bit of time getting to know somebody on your table or on the table next to you. I hope you've enjoyed chatting to each other. Just before we draw it to come back into the room. Hopefully that's given you a chance to meet somebody you didn't know who you can carry on the conversation with over lunch. But just in closing, I'm going to ask our panel to give us 10 seconds each. Anyone who goes over 10 seconds, I'm going to start hissing. Just their 10 seconds each on what is their silver bullet, or what is the one thing they'd ask us all to do. Just a 10-second silver bullet before we end, and then I'll just make a quick closing. Take us away.
Funding, really. You said that everybody knows the power of sport, but trying to prove that is very difficult. That early intervention piece is very difficult. Spend £1 and you make a saving of between £3 and £15, whichever report you read. There's the Chief Constable of Essex down the back there, so if you could persuade him to invest in early intervention, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Silver bullet, definitely. Just believe in it and fund it. But also for me, I deal with often care leavers, the adults, but recognising in those adults that they are actually still in a lot of ways the vulnerable young child, that they may have chronologically grown up, but in many ways they are still very, very young, and we need to support them as that.
Let's change the narrative. Let's recognise all of the amazing things that our young people are achieving and believe in them so they can believe in themselves.
Let's continue to make sure that we make sport and the arts accessible for people, and also that we, as all of our different organisations, are able to reach in and actually reach those young people.
Let's look beyond behaviour and think about how we walk alongside young people to support them, believe in themselves, and we need to believe in them.
If you're in a group and you're not sure how to activate them, throw a ball or put some music on and just see what happens, and then you'll see the power of it right in front of you.
Brilliant. I think we need to stop fighting for position over purpose and start looking at the purpose over the position of all of our organisations and come together and work together better, because we're the chaos that the children experience more often than not.
I agree with all of that, but I think we've just got to pivot. We're fishing in the same pond for the same money, and it's not there. We need to work with the private sector differently, creatively, and we need to form ways in which they believe it's better for them. So I think there's a huge opportunity over the next decade to do that.
For me, challenge us, challenge your local sporting organisations, look at the work that they are doing, that they can most certainly support either resources or expertise to do so. But also I think we all recognise that sport's there for, and being smart about those transitional periods and those difficult periods as well.
Thank you all. That was brilliant, 10 seconds. I cut you off on your 10 seconds.
Right, I was going to finish anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. No, that is brilliant. Thank you all for coming. Just a couple of bits of housekeeping before we give a massive round of applause to our panellists and to yourselves. The lunch is upstairs over there. And can you be back in the main hall at 2 o'clock, please? And I just want to say, before I thank the panel, that I think one of the things that we can all do is to remember that life is hard, so let's make it fun. Our interactions with young people need to be fun, and we need to use humour, and we need to use love and laughter. But can I ask you to give it up for our phenomenal panel? Thank you.